So this is our trip down the middle fork of the Salmon this May. We scored a cancellation permit and planned this trip in about 4 days from the time we scored the permit to launch. We got super lucky with flows and weather and had one of the most amazing trips ever for our first descent of the middle fork of the Salmon. As you can see, we just came around the first bend, the first rapid of the trip. It looks pretty intimidating from the put-in because there's so much wood being held up in the middle of the river right now, but it's pretty easy to avoid by either going left or right around the center of the river. My first impressions of the middle fork as we launched was that it was a lot faster and steeper than I was expecting, and we had the boat loaded more heavily than I have ever probably rode on a multi-day trip, especially having two passengers. So I was immediately working way harder than I needed to and feeling like I was on a runaway train. This river and most Idaho rivers are steeper than I'm used to running on multi-day trips. And so right out of the gate, I was feeling pretty gassed and feeling a little out of control. As we come around the bend here, I believe this hole that we're going to go to the left of is Murph's hole. I've seen some videos of it flipping boats and surfing people. It didn't look quite as big as I've seen on a lot of other people's videos. I think it flushes out a little bit at these flows, but my buddy David ran through it and almost got surfed. So here we are chastising him a little bit about pushing through big holes.
You almost ate that hole. You need to push through that. You're like, push. And you're like,
He's pretty new to Class 4 rafting, and this was definitely the biggest water that he's personally rode. So it's just a little bit of constructive criticism, and you'll see a lot more of that. I've been best friends with David since I was 2 years old, so if it seems like I'm talking sternly to him, it's because we are best friends and he knows I love him. We were getting snacks out of the Drybox here at the wrong time. By the time I realized, oh shoot, my friend Bob, who's leading us, is going left of this big rock, I had to work my butt off to get left. You definitely could catch the eddy on the left bank and not have to work so hard. You can also run right of this rock. I was just following Bob religiously because I was worried that he saw something I didn't see. Here we arrive at Sulphur Slide. The big landslide coming off the right bank lets you know you're here, and it is a fast, exciting drop. I was a little disappointed at technicality of the rapid. At this flow, you could kind of just point and shoot. There's not a lot of boat flipping holes. There's one on the left here though. But it was super fun and definitely sets the tone for the rest of the first day as you're dropping down these pretty narrow chutes. I'm following my friend Bob down the river. We recruited Bob to join us on this trip because he's done the Middle Fork 15 times over the past 40 years, so he knows the river pretty well, and I really wanted to have someone with us that knew what was around the corner so we didn't have to have our heads stuck in the map the whole trip and we could actually do some sightseeing. So Bob was invaluable on this trip just as a boat to follow. He knew all the lines, and he is just an awesome guy and a joy to be around. Ram's Horn is easy to spot because you have this big rock on the right and the debris flow from the creek on the left.
give me a little space.
At this point, I was already finding that I was having trouble staying off of Bob's butt because his boat was so much lighter than mine. And I was catching eddies wherever I could and still just running into him in the rapids.
one side, do the same. This is the one that might have wood.
Hell's Half Mile. You'll see here Bob gets worked in a hole.
Hit the big hole straight.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. There's a nasty log sticking up out of the water here. Definitely one to take note of. I don't quite hit this hole straight, which will be a theme for the rest of the trip. In my defense, I was having trouble seeing over my two passengers. I should have had them a little more spread out so I could see between them. Watch your downstream oar, buddy. I almost caught that one in the jaw, which you'll see later in the video was also a theme of this trip. You do get a tiny break from the continuousness of this rapid right here. No amount of YouTube scouting could prepare me for just how long and continuous this rapid is. It is really super fun. I wish we would have scouted it just so I kind of could plan my routes out better, but Bob's 73 years old and he didn't want to scout anything, so we sent it. Velvet Falls has seen a lot of changes in the past few years. Last year there was a giant log jam in between the debris flow and this rock, which is seemingly completely gone now. So you have two choices of a line. You can go left of the rock or right of the rock. The left side of the rock had a pretty nasty drop in it, so to avoid that drop, you then got shoved into the wall. And then you have to work pretty hard at the bottom of this rapid to not get pushed up onto the rocks on the bottom right. And I just barely made it. I had to draw my oar. Poor form. This was definitely my favorite rapid of the trip. This is another one where I saw Bob get absolutely worked ahead of me, and so I'm just rowing scared, like hoping we don't get worked in the same holes that he's getting worked in. But thankfully we were much heavier, so we punched through a lot of the stuff that was working him. A lot of these bigger holes are diagonal to the main flow of the current, so if you do scout the river, take note of those, because there was a few that I didn't properly get teed up to. This is a fun video. I think we were supposed to be on river left here, but Bob was trying out some new lines, and he got a little stuck here on river right. So I work around him and then have to get back before this gravel bar. And behind me, David is also having to work to get around Bob. And then he gets stuck, I think, and then proceeds to just keep spinning and bouncing off of rocks at the bottom of this rapid. And he got kind of out of sorts, which is not the place you want that to happen as you drop into the lower class 4 part of this rapid. So you'll see the river wants to push you up against this wall. So you have to work pretty hard to get away from it. But as we come around here, you'll see there's a big cave in the side of this wall with a lot of water going up under it, and it looks pretty undercut. And as I turn around and look, I see David kind of struggling through the upper part of the wall, and he's kind of dragging along the upper part of the wall. And what had happened is he had hit a hole and lost his oar out of his hand and didn't recover it in time. And he just was heading straight for that cave, and I was so worried he was going to get smashed up against the wall and the boat was going to pin in that cave. So I'm freaking out right here, trying to eddy out, and thankfully everything was fine. He just bounced off the wall, but I was a little stressed. Pistol Creek is another rapid that should definitely be scouted. We didn't scout it, and it was definitely a little scary coming around this fast corner and making this S-turn. It's a pretty unique rapid. I would say my only advice would be you need to avoid this hole at the bottom right, but if you can catch it a little bit and kind of ride that Whitewater, it'll slow you down enough that you don't run into this wall so badly. As you can see, I'm pulling pretty hard to stay off the wall, and I still have to shim my oar, and we bounce off the wall a little bit. David behind me just styled it.
God damn, he's good. He did that way better than I did.
Tappan Falls, the site of the funniest YouTube rafting video of all time. I think I have it linked in here somewhere, but you should definitely watch it. Yeah, find those videos I have in the text box here, and you will laugh your butt off. They're so funny. This rapid has a crazy horizon line as you come up to it, but if you hit the line, it's a really fun rapid. Ouch. That rock was just barely under the surface, and I don't think she saw it in time to ship her oar. That could have been really bad, but thankfully she just had a little bruise on her neck. Haystack is super fun with this much water. There's a lot less places to get stuck, and there's a lot of easy sneak lines. We opted to go as close to the haystack rock as we could, just to make things interesting. But as you can see, the river's pretty wide open here. This is actually the third day. There was no exciting or interesting rapids on day 2, so we don't have any footage from that day. This rapid haystack is right after we just left the Flying Bee Ranch and got ice cream and beer and nicotine. It's an awesome stop. The second part of the rapid, I think, is actually called Bernard, and it's a separate rapid in the guidebook, but they're pretty back to back. I think I only included this class 3 rapid because the wave train at the bottom was so surprisingly fun. As you hear Tori call it out, I think this one's just a big wave train. Hands in the air, roller coaster style. I don't know why we don't have helmets on. Please forgive me, helmet police. I promise not wearing helmets will not be our biggest sin on this day. Wall Creek is pretty technical for a class 3, I would say. You kind of have to avoid this hole on the left without getting pushed up on the wall on the right. Tor decides to just gut it. Thankfully, that went fine. But then she kind of has to work to get left, I think, here. Oh, no, never mind. That was way easier than I remember. As I was preparing for this trip, I kept getting this rapid Redside confused with another rapid later in the trip called Devil's Tooth. At higher flows, they both have 2 large rocks, making holes slash waves that you can split the 2 rocks. So that's what I did here. Pushed, split the rocks, no problem. This is when the canyon starts to get a little more channelized and a little faster and a lot more compression waves. As you'll see, this one's really fun. And we have helmets on now. Good for us. I promise these waves are bigger than they look on the GoPro. It's the GoPro effect.
Maybe on these Class 3 plus scores, I want us to be like a little bit more than this going through Rafting. And you're just zooming, I can't keep up with you. And Bob's like, really can't keep up. So just catch eddies every now and then.
Shout out to Zach Collier from Gig Garage for having a bunch of awesome videos about proper boat spacing for Class 4 rapids. It was something my mentors never really taught me to think about, and it'll come in handy in the next couple rapids. You'll see. Helmets are cool, kids. I don't know why I'm not wearing it again, but helmets are cool, I promise. Especially if you put some sick stickers on them. Pretend you're sponsored. They're cool. This is Cliffside. I don't know why it's a Class 4. Just stay away from the cliff. I can see why lower Cliffside is Class 4. This rapid's pretty sick. So I'm going to shut up and just let you enjoy this one. Yet another fun wave train. That was kind of the theme of the lower canyon. I've never had so much fun just punching waves and keeping it in the middle. Here's another place where the GoPro scaling kind of masks the rapid. This wave is huge. You can see by the angle of the camera just shooting up into the sky, but I couldn't believe how big this was. I was screaming, "This is like the Grand Canyon! Holy cow, this is the Grand Canyon!" And I've never even been on the Grand Canyon, but I assume that's what it's like. This next part will help portray the scale of the rapid a little bit better. David disappears through 2 troughs, almost 3. This is where I notice Bob is trying to sneak around the wave. And he just gets pulled all the way into the center of the wave and hits it sideways. And I see him get ejected into the air. And I hope he's in the front of the boat, but right about here I see, no, he's not in the front of the boat. Yeah, he was under for 12 seconds. At this point, the girls in the front of the boat are asking Bob if he's okay, if he's injured, and he says, "No, I'm fine, just pull me to the shore." I said, "Are you sure I can take you to your boat?" And he said, "No, I just want to go to the shore and catch my breath."
Just grab it and pull it in that left eddy.
And the boat was floating slowly downriver, so we just took Bob to shore.
Yeah, you were under for 10 seconds.
No, it was deep. I mean, it was deep. I went down.
Deep and aerated.
Yeah. I saw a lot of bubbles. I thought, why ever come up with this? Is this it? Am I going to drown?
No. You're a good boater. You held your breath.
David did an awesome rescue. He grabbed Bob's He rode out into the middle of the stream, grabbed Bob's boat, clipped it onto his, and towed it into the eddy all by himself.
His clip was on the other side. I don't know how I was going to do it. I'd have to grab a strap and strap it.
Oh, sweet.
I do have straps right there, though. Dude, I was trying to pull this fucker so hard, I did not want to go down those rapids.
Not clipped to it.
Dude, that would have fucking sucked. I would have just got thrashed around.
Yeah, if you were gonna go down, you should just let it loose.
At this point, I know I sound like a broken record, but Hancock is another big, fun wave train with really no hazards. Just keep it straight and enjoy the ride. I'm not completely sure that this lower part of the river is still part of Hancock, but there is one huge rock in the center of the river, as you can see, that would have to be avoided, especially at lower water. But at this flow, it was no issue. It was a little bit hard to see from above, so I guess make note of that rock, but it's easy to avoid. And then you have a little hole in the bottom left here that could cause problems for smaller craft. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward, fun Class 3. I get a little nervous just seeing the name of this rapid pop up on my screen, and you'll see why in just a second. At lower water, it's a pretty formidable rapid, but at high water, we didn't think it was going to be any issue. Of course, we didn't scout it, and I'll let the video play and then I'll explain what I was thinking. As I mentioned before, it's a similar rapid to Redside in that there's two major rocks you have to avoid. And I kind of confused it with Redside, and I was thinking, oh, I'll just push between the two rocks. And as we came up to the horizon line, I noticed that there's a pretty big hole. And so I pushed my hardest and was thinking, oh, I'll just clip the edge of the hole. And the hole extended way farther to the right of the actual rock than I thought. And so as we dropped over the horizon line, my eyes just got huge and we met the biggest part of the hole. So we got tossed out. Tori got hit in the face with the oar. And now the boat's surfing on its own. You can't really see it because I sped the video up so much, but I'll release a shorter video showing most of that surf. It was actually so violent that it ripped our cots out from under the Paco pad, even though they were strapped down. And we lost our cot legs, which was a big bummer. And now they're probably in the ocean choking a sea turtle or something. So that sucks. Tori is now being helped into David's raft because she was so gassed from the long swim that she was having trouble getting into the Otter. It has pretty huge tubes, and she was trying to climb over the spare oar. She can normally get into the raft by herself, but you know how it is after you just swam in cold water without a dry suit. She didn't have a lot of breath left. The boat is now ghost boating through another Class 3 rapid and almost gets surfed again. David's slowly working his way over here. Gonna drop Tori off at the raft, so saving the day once again. So what's the moral of this story? I think it would probably be to scout rapids that you're unfamiliar with unless you want to swim. Because running stuff blind is really fun and it's really cool, but you have to be ready for a swim. Unless you're just a better boater than me, which is completely possible. And in that case, you would have read the horizon line better and known the hole was there. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you learned something. I had a lot of fun making this, even though it took me way too long, but I enjoyed it and I think I'll do it more in the future. So if you want to see more, let me know in the comments that you like the trip reports and you want me to keep doing them, and follow the channel and I will keep posting carnage. And in the words of the great R1 master David Roberts, hell yeah.